Hello, I greet you in Swahili, Habarigani. I want to talk today about the Confederate flag, whether it's pride or prejudice. The Confederate flag, whether it's pride or prejudice. And first of all, it would be a matter of how you look at it. To an older Southern white person, it represents their heritage. And to a minority, of someone of color, it may look like it is a symbol of hatred. And you must understand that to a Southern white, they're descendants of the Confederacy. And the Confederacy, the Confederate States, were unrecognized breakaway states that fought against the U.S. during the Civil War. So in today's time, that would be considered as being rogue states. They were unrecognized during the Civil War, and they fought against the United States. And to get a better understanding of what we're really dealing with here, you had 11 Confederate states from 1861 to 1865. And the irony behind this was none of them was paying taxes. The Southern whites were actually enjoying ownership of slaves, and owning slaves, you didn't pay employees, so therefore you didn't have really a big overhead to worry about. Not only didn't they didn't pay the slaves, but they didn't pay the government taxes, and that's where the problem came in. They were number one producers of cotton. They sold not only to Europe, but also to the northern states, sugar and livestock. So these guys, they were raking in the dough, they were getting money. And the federal government looked at it and said, hey, something is not right. This is not right. They should be paying taxes on this stuff. When you begin to look at it, before we give our platitudes to President Abraham Lincoln, before we saint him and give him all the platitudes of signing the proclamation to free slaves, you have to understand that the Civil War was really not necessarily about just freeing slaves. It was not about freeing slaves. The main objective about the Civil War really was about taxes. President Abraham Lincoln looked at it in the sense of, you have these people that could be producing, they should be getting paid for it. Not only should they be getting paid, but they should be paying taxes. And that's the way the federal government looks at things today. That's why do you think that you get your check after they first take out taxes? Taxes, when it comes to the federal government, is all about the Benjamins. So Lincoln looked at it that these people should be freed so that they can work and they can pay taxes. But the white slave owner said, that's not happening. To them, it was, and I'm gonna get back to the flag, but to them, they were enjoying, didn't have to pay, they weren't paying taxes, they didn't pay employees. So therefore they were just really getting wealthy off of all of this that was going on. So when you begin to look at it, after they had lost the Civil War, the South lost the Civil War, they never really got over it. They never really let it go. And you begin to see, that's why you hear the phrase, the South will rise again. Because to them, they never really got over that, losing the Civil War. And when you begin to look at it on a grander scale, we are the United States, the states all together, all 50 states together, the United States. But as a result of all of this, that's why you got byproducts from this. You have the Ku Klux Klan, which call themselves the ghost of the Confederacy. They consider themselves to be the ghost of the Confederacy. That's where the Klan, that's why they look like spooks. That's why they look like ghosts. They were called themselves the ghosts of the Confederate soldiers that died. And they went around terrorizing people. And so to answer the question, is the Confederate flag, is it pride or prejudice? To a Southern white, and you have to realize none of us was there, none of us alive today was there. To many Southern whites, it's just, to them, it's their heritage. It represents their heritage. But the Klan, when they flew this Confederate flag, you have to realize they murdered and terrorized, lynched black men and on trees and had them hanging on trees. And to black folks, this is a symbol of hatred. It reminds them, and it's a symbol of hatred. It's like to a Jew, the swaths is a symbol of hatred. And none of us, like I said, none of us was around during the Civil War. That generation is dead. But we got to keep in mind many of the ideologies or the ideologies is still present and alive today. And everyone has a right to freedom of speech, whether you agree with them or not, whether, they believe it's heritage or hatred. Everybody's entitled to their freedom of speech, and you can change the flag all day long, but that's not going to change people. It's not going to change hearts. It's not going to change the ideology that's present. When you begin to look at the ideology, you have some people that are unconscious bias. And what I mean by unconscious bias is a term to say that they go along, that they don't recognize certain things as racist. It's like becoming nose blind. You get used to a smell so long that people that hadn't smelled the smell, when they come into the room, they smell it. But you've been inhaling it so long that, you're really not conscious or cognizant of the odor. And that's how racism is in some sense, because there's some people, I believe some people may have the right intentions, but they're holding on to something, to some people it's offensive. Whether you agree or you disagree with it, real change comes through legislation. It comes through change. Change comes from teaching and raising our people, raising our families at home. It starts with teaching them right from wrong and teaching them that racism and hate is wrong. That's where change comes from. You can change the flag all day, but it's not going to change people's heart. And, if you're going to change the world, if you want to change the world, you may feel like I can't change the world. But the main thing you could do, you could start by changing in your home. We all can be bigger and better people, whether you agree with it or whether you disagree with it. That goes for both black and white. God bless you, and I hope you enjoyed this.